The wind breathes slow and dry across the plains of Elkhorn County, dragging curls of golden grass across the dust like the skirts of tired dancers. The sky's wide open, too wide, and it hangs heavy above the scattered wooden cabins, stitched together by dirt roads and quiet judgment. Ella keeps her head down as she pours water into the horse trough behind the church. Her hands are calloused, sunburned. Her dress, handmade, patched at the waist, clings to her frame like it knows it doesn't belong here. She's 19, newly arrived, and already whispers follow her like shadows. She's not from around here, and that's enough. The preacher says she's a settler, that she came to help build the town. Truth is, she was sent. A contract, a promise of land, of future. That's how it works out here, land first, personhood later. Across the way, a pair of white boys in suspenders lean against a fence post, smirking. One mimics her gait. The other tosses a stone. It lands near her foot. She doesn't flinch. Doesn't look. That's how you survive it. Pretend you're a ghost. But it's not just the boys. It's the way the general storekeeper locks the door early when she's on the porch. The way the older women pull their daughters behind them when she passes. It's the silence in a town full of God-fearing voices. Ella is black. Educated, but that's hidden. She knows how to read. Right. She can shoot straight and mend broken things with a surgeon's care. But none of that matters when you've got skin they think was never meant to glint in the prairie sun. She rinses her hands in the trough, hears the door creak behind her. "You're late," Mr. Henry calls out. Tall, lean, white, with hands that only ever tighten when a woman's nearby. Widowed rancher. 42. Gray in the beard, not the soul. His boots crunch toward her. Ella forces a polite smile, like folding paper under stone. The mule lost a shoe. He chuckles like it's cute, like it's sweet that she's explaining herself. "You'll learn to move quicker once you're mine," he says casually, as if reading the weather. Her throat tightens. She dips her head, but behind her lashes, her eyes are searching the horizon. A flicker of movement out there, white against the tall grass. A rider, maybe. Too far to tell. But her chest knows something before her mind does. Henry tosses a coin into the water beside her. Think of it as an advance. Got the papers signed this morning. She's not sure if he means her or the livestock. As he walks away, the stone-faced men on the porch glance toward her, then toward the horizon. That same white blur is still there, growing clearer. A horse. A man. Ella straightens her spine. She doesn't know who he is yet. But something in her blood whispers, he's not here to let things go quiet. It starts with the smell of tobacco, sweet, bitter, clinging to her dress even when he hasn't touched her. Henry begins showing up at places Ella hasn't told him she'd be. The blacksmiths. The riverbank. Once, outside the old schoolhouse where she teaches a few of the town's children, the ones with parents too poor or too proud to send them elsewhere. "You don't need to work," he says, grinning through yellowed teeth. "That's what I'm for now." She laughs it off, like it's a joke. But it's not. Not to him. The town starts shifting, subtle and slow like dusk creeping over the prairie. Mrs. Carrow, the seamstress, refuses to mend Ella's only winter coat. Claims she's too busy, though Ella sees her hemming dresses for the sheriff's daughter not an hour later. The postman stops delivering her letters she's been writing to her uncle out east, trying to confirm if the land contract was real or forged. When she confronts him, the postman just shrugs. "Ain't nothin' here for women like you but a good man's mercy. Henry's just trying to do right by you." Right. Ella sits in the church pew on Sunday, the only person with brown skin in a sea of starch-white collars and suspicious eyes. Pastor Whitfield preaches about obedience, about providence, about women knowing their place. His gaze lands on her more than once. Something's wrong. The papers Henry waved in front of her, he never let her read them. And no one in town, not even the preacher, will tell her what she supposedly signed. She remembers the day clearly. He handed her a form, told her it was a work permit. Said he'd help her settle. She signed in pencil. Later, she hears whispers. That Henry bought her out of charity. That he saved her from being shipped back east. Saved. Like she's a problem. Ella sits by the river that night, knees tucked to her chest. The moon hangs pale and watchful overhead. She clutches a folded letter she never got to send. Her hand trembles, not from cold, but from the feeling crawling up her spine that she's been trapped. Caged without bars. Behind her, a twig snaps. She turns. Nothing. But when she walks back into town, she sees it again. The rider. Distant. Quiet. Watching. Always watching. And Henry. He's standing outside her door, arms crossed, hat low, like he's been waiting. "Was wonderin' where you wandered off to," he says, voice dipped in molasses and menace. "I needed air." "Well," he says, stepping close, breath reeking of whiskey, "you won't need much more of that once you're on the ranch. It's isolated. Peaceful. No distractions." His fingers graze her elbow. She pulls away. He grins like a man who believes the law will never touch him. And Ella realizes. He doesn't think she can run. He doesn't think anyone would come for her. The next morning, she marches straight to the sheriff's office with the folded document Henry made her sign. She's kept it hidden under her mattress, the paper soft from her fingertips, edges worn from worry. Sheriff Colburn doesn't even look up when she walks in. "I need to verify this," she says, holding the paper forward. "It's a contract Henry made me sign. I was told it was for employment, but he's using it like a deed. Like I'm property." He finally glances up. Cold gray eyes. Tight mouth. He doesn't reach for the paper. "You agreed, didn't you?" he asks. "Signed it yourself." "I wasn't told what it was." "That's fraud." He cuts her off with a scoff. "Now listen here, girl. You've been given room and board, and Henry's taken a liking to you. Ain't many men would do that for your kind. Your kind." The words slap harder than any hand. Ella takes a breath, steadying her voice. "I want to see a judge." Colburn leans back in his chair, boots creaking on the desk. "Judge won't be back in these parts till after winter. That's months away. Best make peace with your new life, Miss Ella. And count yourself lucky." She walks out, humiliated, but not broken. Back at the schoolhouse, she finds her friend Jonah waiting. A quiet man with calloused hands and the only other black soul in town. He's been working the rail lines, saving every dime to move his sister west. "I heard what Henry's been saying," he tells her. "They call it a marriage, but nobody saw a ceremony. No license. Nothing legal." Ella swallows. "I need proof. Anything to undo this." Jonah nods. "I know someone. Clerk's apprentice. Been keepin' records off book. Might still have a copy of the original form you signed." They sneak into the records office that night. Under lantern light, they find it, her signature on a blank form, no witness signature, no notary. Not even a date. "Fraud," Jonah whispers. "You've got him." But dawn brings worse news. Henry shows up at the schoolhouse with a wagon and 2 men. He drags Ella out mid-lesson, tosses her belongings into a sack, and announces loud enough for the children to hear, "My wife doesn't need to teach anymore." She fights back, claws at his sleeves, screams. No one intervenes. Not Mrs. Carrow, not the postman, not even the preacher watching from his porch. Later that day, locked in Henry's ranch house, more a prison than a home, she sees the full extent of his control. The windows are barred. The door locks from the outside. He's moved her miles from town. "You're mine now," he says, tipping his whiskey glass toward her. "Ain't no one comin' to save you." He means it. Ella waits until he passes out, then creeps to the back door. It's bolted. But through the slats, she sees the moon and a figure at the ridge. The rider. Same white horse. Same silent watch. Ella presses her fingers to the wood and whispers, "Please." The next morning, she wakes to find a slip of paper tucked beneath the door. 3 words scrawled in clean ink. "You're not alone." She breathes for the first time in days. Henry's power is unraveling. But the deeper she digs, the more dangerous it becomes. And the quiet cowboy on the ridge? He's not just watching anymore. Snow dusts the dry hills like ash. The air is brittle, cold enough to bite through bone. Inside the ranch house, Henry paces like a caged wolf, glass in one hand, rifle in the other. Ella sits in the corner, hands folded neatly in her lap. Silent. Watching. Waiting. He spins toward her. "Judge'll be back in town in a week," he says, slurring. "And when he hears I took in a penniless stray and gave her my name, he'll call me a saint. Ain't nobody gonna believe you." She says nothing. That angers him more. "You hear me, girl," he growls, stepping closer. "You think that fake little schoolhouse makes you better than me? That boy Jonah. You think anyone in this town would take your word over mine?" His voice drips with venom. Years of power unchecked. A man who's used to getting what he wants. "I never married you," Ella says quietly. "You forged a lie." Henry laughs, too loud, too confident. "They don't care. Long as a white man says it's true, it is true." He lifts the rifle just enough for her to notice. Not a threat. A warning. "You're not going anywhere." She stands. Slowly. Calmly. Eyes steady. "I'm not the only one who knows." He stiffens. "What?" "I found the apprentice clerk," she says, voice unwavering. "He gave me the original file. The one you altered. There's no witness signature. No date. And it was never submitted." Henry blinks. For the first time, doubt cracks through the arrogance. "That don't matter." "It does." She reaches into her satchel, pulls out a folded sheet of paper. "And I sent a copy to the district marshal. Certified. 2 days ago." He lunges. "You lying." But the front door slams open before he can touch her. Snow swirls in with the wind. And in the doorway stands a tall, dust-worn figure in a faded brown coat and a low-brimmed hat. Behind him, Jonah. And the apprentice clerk. And Pastor Whitfield, eyes wide with guilt. And behind them, a U.S. Marshal. The cowboy speaks first. Voice soft. Controlled. But laced with steel. "You lay another hand on her, and I'll bury you myself." Henry freezes. The marshal steps forward. "Henry Lawson, you're under investigation for fraud, coercion, and unlawful detainment. Step outside." Henry scoffs, still clinging to control. "This is my house. I took her in. She belongs here." The marshal lifts his badge. "You're not above the law. And she's not property." Henry glares at Ella. His face twists, not in fear, but in disbelief. Like he still can't believe he's losing. "You think this changes anything?" he sneers. "They'll forget you by next week." Ella lifts her chin. "They'll remember what you did." He snarls, tries to reach for the rifle. But the cowboy steps in. Quicker than lightning. Kicks the weapon from his hands and drives him to the floor. It's over in seconds. Henry Lawson, entitled, powerful, untouchable, is cuffed in the snow, face shoved into the dirt he once ruled. Ella steps out of the house, boots crunching over frost, her breath visible in the morning sun. And for the first time, she stands free. Henry Lawson is dragged into the town square, hands bound, lip bloodied, still barking like a dog that thinks it owns the land beneath its paws. "This is ridiculous," he shouts as the marshal leads him to the courthouse steps. "I rescued her. Gave her a home. That girl should be thanking me." But the townsfolk aren't buying it anymore. The schoolhouse children huddle close to Mrs. Carrow, their wide eyes watching the man they once feared get shoved into the light. Pastor Whitfield lingers near the front, pale-faced and silent. The clerk's apprentice, Timothy, is holding a sealed envelope with shaking hands. The marshal turns to the crowd. "What we have here is not a misunderstanding. It is fraud, coercion, and unlawful detainment under the color of race and false authority." Ella steps up beside him, her shoulders square. Her hair, once tied back in worry, now flows loose around her face. She doesn't flinch when Henry snarls at her. "She lied," he bellows, struggling against the cuffs. "She's using you, trying to shame an honest man." Ella holds up the document. "This is the contract he made me sign. No date. No witness. No notary. And here," she nods to Timothy, who hands the marshal a second envelope, "is the real clerk's ledger. My name was never entered. He never filed it because he knew it was a lie." Gasps ripple through the crowd. Henry pales. But it gets worse. Jonah steps forward, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket, carefully unwrapping a small wax cylinder. "I made a recording," he says. Henry's voice, saying she was his property, that she was bought. "I gave it to the marshal last night." The marshal nods. "We verified the voice. It's him. Clear as day." Henry's bluster vanishes. "No, wait. I was drunk. That wasn't. You can't. You will answer for this," the marshal says. "In a federal courtroom. You're not just looking at fines. You're looking at prison." Henry lunges, but the cowboy steps between them, like a shadow rising from the dirt. His eyes never blink, never break from Henry's. "She's free now," the cowboy says. "And you're finished." For the first time, Henry looks scared. Real scared. "You think they'll believe her story?" he hisses. "She's just a—" The cowboy leans in. "Say it," he whispers. "Go on. Say it in front of the marshal." Henry chokes on his own hatred. And suddenly, he understands, this is no longer his town. His name means nothing now. The papers have been signed. The evidence is irrefutable. His allies have all drifted to the edges, shame etched into their faces. Even Pastor Whitfield can't meet his eyes. The marshal drags him away. And as he's loaded into the back of the wagon, Henry screams one last time, "You won't get away with this! I built this town. It was mine." But the town doesn't scream back. The town stays quiet. The cowboy watches until the wagon disappears beyond the ridge. Then he turns to Ella, hat still low on his brow. "You good?" he asks. She nods slowly, voice trembling with quiet strength. "I am now." Jonah grins, arms folded. Whole town saw it. They know who he really was. Ella looks around, at the faces once silent, now stunned. At children who will grow up remembering this day. At men who once turned away, now standing in silence, reckoning with the truth. Justice didn't just knock. It rode in 3 days after Henry Lawson's arrest. The town of Tilden Creek feels like it's breathing again. The air is lighter. The stairs have softened. And for once, Ella walks through the general store without the heat of 1,000 judgments burning into her back. "Morning, Miss Ella," the butcher calls from behind the counter. "Got some fresh cuts on the house." She blinks, unused to kindness that doesn't come with a price. Thank you." Jonah waits by the horseshoe post out front, arms crossed, hat shading his smile. The townsfolk step aside when Ella exits, and no one dares whisper behind her anymore. Because now they know. They saw the ledger, heard the recording, watched Henry Lawson get dragged from his porch, shouting nonsense about order and respect as federal marshals packed up years of forged paperwork, bribes, and buried complaints. Turned out Ella wasn't the only one. 3 other women, Mexican, Cherokee, Black, were coerced into settlements under his name. 1 fled. 1 vanished. But not Ella. She stayed. Fought. And now she's free. Henry's accounts have been frozen. His properties, dozens of acres stolen under false claims, seized for investigation. The bank has distanced itself. His church revoked his standing. And the town paper, once stuffed with his editorials, printed a front-page apology, followed by Ella's own words, written in her hand. "He told me I was lucky," she'd written. "But luck is surviving when the odds say you shouldn't. Justice is when those odds finally change." The cowboy, silent as ever, hasn't left. He stays in town, helping Jonah rebuild the stall barn, teaching the younger boys how to rope cattle without fear. He never says much. Just watches. Listens. Waits. Until today. He walks beside Ella now, both of them quiet, footsteps crunching on gravel as the sun falls behind the chapel roof. "You going to stay?" she asks. He shrugs. "If I'm welcome." She glances up at him, eyes sharp and warm. "You earned welcome." He nods, tipping his hat. "Then I reckon I'll stay a little longer." They stop at the top of the ridge, the same place she once watched Henry's wagon vanish into the horizon. But this time, there's no bitterness. No fire in her throat. Just wind and sky, and the scent of wild sage rising from the grass. From behind them, voices echo, Timothy reading aloud from the town square, a new ordinance being passed. Mandatory filing of all settlement contracts under federal supervision. No more secret deals. No more unsigned papers. Jonah's voice cuts through the crowd. We don't bury things here anymore. Ella closes her eyes. She thinks of her mother. Her grandmother. All the women before her who had no Cowboy, no Jonah, no voice. And now? Now the silence is gone. The Cowboy leans beside her. You gonna build something? I think I will, she murmurs. And this time, it'll be mine. A beat passes. Then another. And in that stillness, where injustice once screamed and shadows once clung, there is peace. Real peace. The kind you fight for. The kind you bleed for. And finally, the kind you get to keep.